The iron beam is falling. I can hear it screaming through the air above me, 286 pounds of unforgiving metal slicing through the wind like a blade. And I have perhaps 2 seconds, maybe less, to decide whether the man beside me lives or dies. His name is Gustave Eiffel, and his hand rests firmly on my shoulder as we were discussing structural calculations just a moment ago, debating tensile strength versus compression in the lateral beams. He doesn't yet know that I'm not who I claim to be. He hasn't yet discovered that every word that's come from my mouth over the past 3 months has been carefully calibrated to sound authentic to this era, but comes from knowledge that shouldn't exist for another century. I pull him hard backward using all the strength of my trained body. The beam crashes where we stood just 1 second ago, sending an explosive shower of orange sparks across the construction site, metal meeting stone with a deafening sound that reverberates through my bones. Workers scream in panic, French voices rising in terror and confusion. Maurice Couchelin is shouting something from the scaffolding above, his words lost in the chaos, but my ears are ringing from the impact of the fall, and my chrono device is burning against my wrist beneath my coat sleeve, as if it's fusing with my skin. Something is wrong. Something is deeply, terribly wrong. The timeline is fracturing around me, and I can feel it like static electricity on my skin, like a tingling that runs up my spine and explodes at the base of my skull. This shouldn't have happened. That beam was secure. I had checked the support cables myself this morning. None of this should have happened. Let me go back. Let me tell you how I got here. How a simple observation mission transformed into something far more complex, into something that threatens not just my career as a chrononaut, but potentially the integrity of the timeline itself. It began 3 days ago, or a century in the future, depending on how you measure time when you spend your life jumping between eras like stones across a river. I had just completed the mission in Paris, 1906. Alberto Santos Dumont had successfully flown the 14 Bis, the first true airplane with autonomous takeoff, proving once and for all that those American brothers with their glorified glider weren't the true pioneers history would initially claim. I watched that magnificent machine lift off the ground under its own power at Bagatelle, heard the crowd roar in admiration as Santos Dumont, that small, eccentric Brazilian in his impeccable suits and his obsession with aviation, piloted his 14 Bis 60 meters through the autumn air. That was a pure moment. That was history moving in the right direction, every detail aligning perfectly with the records we had studied in the 22nd century. But the Temporal Council had canceled the mission to Berlin 1936 because there was another urgent assignment waiting. Paris, 1887. Gustave Eiffel. The tower. Just observe, Director Chen told me through the quantum link, her voice crackling slightly across the decades that separated us. Eiffel is having doubts about the structural calculations. Our temporal prediction algorithms show a 19% probability that he'll abandon the project entirely if he doesn't receive encouragement at the critical moment. The project nearly collapsed before it began. You'll be there to ensure he doesn't walk away. Subtle guidance only, Brown. No technological revelations, no paradoxes, you know the protocols. I should have said no. Should have said I needed rest, that jumping to 1887 Paris without proper decompression after the Santos Dumont mission was dangerous, that I was beginning to feel the cumulative effects of months in the field without significant break. But I was arrogant back then. I was only 32 and had completed 17 missions without a single temporal corruption, without a single significant deviation from recorded historical events. I thought I was invincible. I thought I could handle anything that passed through at me. The jump was harder than normal. I should have recognized that as a warning. The chrono device on my left wrist flickered twice during the transition, a bad sign indicating temporal interference or instability in the quantum tunnel. When I materialized in the alley behind Rue de la Paix, I was completely disoriented, nauseated in a way I hadn't experienced since my early training jumps. The smell of Paris in 1887 hit me like a physical wall. Fresh horse manure on cobblestone streets, heavy coal smoke from thousands of chimneys, bread baking in nearby bakeries, the sour smell of the sewer system still being modernized, and cheap perfume, or perhaps expensive, hard to tell, all mixed into a distinctly 19th century cocktail that made my stomach turn. I leaned against the damp brick wall, waiting for my head to clear, waiting for the world to stop spinning. It was January, a bitter cold that cut to the bone. My brown coat and layers of chronofiber, specially developed fabric that regulated temperature without appearing anachronistic, kept me warm, but I knew I'd need to acquire proper period clothing quickly. Couldn't risk drawing attention with garments that looked slightly wrong to native Parisian eyes. The Temporal Council's intelligence said Eiffel was working in his office on Rue Fouquet, finalizing the tower's design before construction began in March. I had 2 months, just 2 months, to ensure he didn't lose faith in his vision. I walked through the streets of Paris that first night, trying to orient myself both geographically and temporally. And God, the city was beautiful in a way that historical photographs and videos never quite captured. Gas lamps cast pools of amber light on wet, uneven cobblestones. The Seine flowed dark and mysterious beneath ancient bridges that had seen centuries of French history. Notre Dame rose against the winter sky like a prayer-made stone, its spires reaching for stars that were brighter here without the light pollution of my time. This was Paris before the tower, before the modern city emerged from the ashes of the Second Empire. This was a world balanced precariously between the classical and the industrial, between the old certainties of the past and the frightening, unknown future. I found a small hotel on the left bank. Nothing extravagant, just clean and discreet. Paid with period currency from my equipment pouch and collapsed onto a bed that was surprisingly uncomfortable compared to modern standards. Sleep came in fractured, disturbing dreams where iron beams fell from the sky and towers collapsed into dust. The next morning, after acquiring appropriate clothing from a tailor who didn't ask too many questions about my American accent, I made my approach. Eiffel's office was modest, surprisingly modest for a man about to build the world's tallest structure. It was in a limestone building that had seen better days, up 3 flights of narrow stairs that smelled of mildew and candle wax. I had prepared my cover story carefully during the months before this mission. Nikola Brown, 30-year-old American engineer, specialist in bridge construction and metal stress analysis, traveling through Europe to study modern engineering techniques and possibly establish business connections. I had forged letters of introduction from fictional colleagues in Chicago and New York, each properly aged and written on period paper with period ink. The Temporal Council's documentation team did absolutely excellent work. Eiffel received me that rainy January afternoon. He was 54 then, though he looked older. Tired, I thought, from the weight of his ambitions and the constant battle against critics who accused him of disfiguring Paris. He had a full beard going gray, intelligent, penetrating eyes behind wire-frame glasses, and the kind of hands that knew how to hold a technical drawing pencil and a wrench with equal confidence. His hands were ink-stained, I noticed, and he had a small cut on his left thumb that he had carelessly wrapped with a cloth. "Monsieur Brown," he said in French, shaking my hand firmly, assessing me with those shrewd eyes. "Your letter mentioned interest in tower construction. You've come to the right place, though, I warn you. My tower is facing considerable opposition from practically everyone who matters in Paris. All truly revolutionary projects face initial opposition," I replied in fluent, unaccented French thanks to the linguistic knowledge the Temporal Council had implanted directly into my neural patterns through accelerated neuroplasticity techniques. The Golden Gate, the Brooklyn Bridge, they all faced fierce skeptics before becoming icons. He raised an eyebrow, a curious expression crossing his tired face. "The Brooklyn Bridge, yes. I've read about its construction in engineering publications. Quite impressive, but what is this Golden Gate you mention? I'm not familiar with that project." My blood froze. I realized my mistake too late, my first major failure in less than 24 hours in the field. The Golden Gate Bridge wouldn't be built until 1937, 50 years in the future. As a chrononaut, you learn to calibrate every word, every reference, but the fatigue from the jump had made me careless. A proposed project in California, I covered smoothly, keeping my tone casual. Just theoretical discussions among engineers at this point. Nothing concrete. It may never actually be built. You know how these grand projects are in America. Big ambitions, execution not always guaranteed. He accepted this with a nod, seeming satisfied with the explanation, and gestured for me to sit in a wooden chair near his desk. His office was absolutely crammed with architectural plans, models in various scales, and scribbled calculations on yellowed sheets of paper. On his desk, in a place of prominence, sat a small iron model of the tower, 300 meters of lattice elegance, every detail meticulously worked. "Beautiful," I said, and it was absolutely true. Even in miniature, the audacity of the design was breathtaking. Beautiful but deeply controversial. Eiffel sighed, removing his glasses to rub his eyes wearily. The artists hate it. The writers hate it. The cultural critics hate it. They call it a disgrace to Paris, an iron monstrosity that will disfigure the most beautiful city in Europe. A petition was published in the newspaper last month. Guy de Maupassant, Alexandre Dumas Fils, Charles Gounod, all the important names signing against me. They say the tower will dishonor the city, that it's an insult to French elegance, that it's nothing more than a giant factory chimney. I leaned forward, recognizing this as the critical moment Director Chen had briefed me about. Eiffel's confidence was wavering under the weight of public criticism. The opposition was getting to him in a way no engineering analysis could defend against. Without significant encouragement now, the council's algorithms showed he might reduce the tower's height, compromise the design to appease critics, or even abandon the project entirely in favor of something less ambitious. "Monsieur Eiffel," I said carefully, weighing each word. "Men of true vision always face fierce opposition from men clinging to tradition. It's the nature of progress. In 100 years, and I know this may sound presumptuous of me, but believe it, your tower will be the definitive symbol of Paris. Children around the world will draw it when they think of France. It will survive wars, celebrate peace, and stand as permanent testament to human ambition and what engineering can achieve. But only if you have the courage to build it exactly as you planned, without compromises, without retreating before the critics." He studied me for a long moment, his eyes examining my face as if trying to read something written there. "You speak with extraordinary certainty for such a young man. Where does this conviction come from?" "I speak with the certainty of someone who deeply understands structural engineering and knows what's possible when we combine rigorous mathematics with boldness of vision. I've studied your calculations, the ones that have been published in technical journals. They're absolutely solid. The iron lattice will withstand any wind Paris can throw at it. The foundations will support the distributed weight perfectly. The physics is on your side. The only real question is whether you have enough courage to ignore critics who understand art, but nothing of engineering, and build what you know in your heart is right." Something changed in his expression, a hardening of determination, a rekindling of faith that I could see igniting again behind his eyes. "Would you like to see the construction site?" he asked, his voice gaining energy it hadn't had moments before. "We begin preliminary excavations next week. I could definitely use another engineer's perspective on the foundation work. The calculations are correct, I'm sure, but a second pair of eyes never hurts. It would be a genuine honor," I replied. And it was true. Seeing the Eiffel Tower being built from the beginning was the kind of opportunity chrononauts dreamed of. That's how it began. That's how I became part of Gustave Eiffel's inner circle, that cold winter of 1887. I told myself I was just observing, just offering gentle encouragement within my mission parameters. I wasn't interfering significantly. I was following my orders perfectly. I was lying shamelessly to myself. In the following weeks, I became a regular presence both in Eiffel's office and at the construction site on the Champ de Mars. The massive excavations for the 4 foundation pillars were in full swing, and I spent hours watching workers dig deep into the damp Parisian soil, preparing the enormous concrete bases that would eventually support 2 million rivets and 7,000 tons of wrought iron. The work was brutal. Men with shovels and picks, working 12-hour shifts, their clothes soaked with sweat even in the winter cold. Eiffel introduced me to his core team. Maurice Koechlin, the brilliant and methodically precise engineer who had done much of the complex structural mathematics. Émile Nouguier, another engineer with expertise in bridges. Stephen Sauvestre, the architect who had refined Koechlin's more utilitarian initial design and made it more elegant, more artistic. They were cautious with me at first, naturally suspicious of this American who had appeared seemingly from nowhere with letters of recommendation and surprisingly sophisticated knowledge. But I proved my worth quickly, offering detailed insights on stress distribution and wind loading that came from my advanced 22nd century training. but that I presented carefully as intuitive observations based on my experience with American bridge construction. "You have a genuinely uncommon mind, Monsieur Brown," Kitchlin said one evening as we reviewed endless calculations by the flickering light of gas lamps. His glasses reflected the flame as he looked at my notes. "You see patterns in the mathematics that take me hours of tedious work to work through. It's almost as if you'd studied with the German masters. But you said you graduated in Chicago?" "I just think differently," I said vaguely, very conscious that I was navigating dangerous territory. Sometimes a completely outside perspective helps see solutions that are obscured by familiarity. But it was Eiffel himself who became my true friend as the days turned into weeks. We would sit in small, smoke-filled cafes after long days at the construction site, drinking harsh red wine and talking for hours about engineering, about beauty, about the deep and mysterious relationship between form and function. He was a fundamentally lonely man in some ways, widowed since the premature death of his beloved wife Marguerite 5 years before, consumed by his work in a way that left little room for personal relationships, facing relentless criticism from practically the entire Parisian artistic and cultural establishment. "They don't truly understand," he told me one night, his voice heavy with wine and accumulated weariness. We were in his favorite cafe near the construction site, sitting at a sticky table in a dark corner. "They think I'm building an ugly utilitarian monument to industry, a soulless celebration of the machine age. But I'm building a beacon, a signal to all humanity. I'm showing what we can achieve when we stop being afraid of our own ambitions, when we embrace the future instead of clinging to the past." "Then build high," I said, diving deeper than I should into my role. "Build so high that no one in Paris can ignore it. Make them look up, force them to confront the future rising above their old certainties." He smiled, a genuine smile that transformed his tired face. "You truly understand me, Nikola. You see what I see. It's rare to find that, and that's when I made my first truly significant mistake. That's when I stopped being a passive observer and became an active participant in history. Because Eiffel trusted me, I found myself offering more than simple encouragement. I began offering concrete technical solutions. There was a complex problem with the elevator system, the passenger elevators that would eventually carry visitors to the top of the tower. The engineering was extraordinarily complex because of the unique angles of the tower's legs, the challenges of creating a system that would work in a structure that wasn't vertical, but curved. Eiffel's team was struggling with the calculations, working through design after design. I knew from history that the Otis Elevator Company would eventually solve it with an ingenious hydraulic system, but watching them struggle night after night, knowing I could help, that I could accelerate the progress, I did what I absolutely shouldn't have done. I sketched a hydraulic system design on the back of a calculation sheet, explaining the mechanical principles in terms they could understand, but adding critical insights from my knowledge of the future, details they wouldn't discover on their own for months. Eiffel stared at the sketch for a long time, his expression shifting from confusion to understanding, to something close to awe. This is exactly what we need," he said quietly, tracing the lines with his finger. "How did you think of this? It's brilliant, it's elegant, how did you—" "Just a random idea," I said quickly, feeling my pulse accelerate with nervousness. "Probably won't work in practice, just throwing experimental thoughts at the wall to see what sticks." But it did work. They built a detailed prototype based on my sketch over the following weeks, and it worked beautifully, smoothly, exactly as I knew it would. And Eiffel looked at me differently after that, with growing curiosity, with unspoken questions I saw forming behind his intelligent eyes. I should have left Paris then, should have declared my mission complete and jumped to my next assignment. But I didn't, because I was beginning to value something I had never really experienced in my 17 previous missions. Genuine friendship, unmediated by protocols or limited by mission objectives. And then, at a formal reception in February for the project's financial backers, I met Amélie Rousseau, and everything became infinitely more complicated. She was 26, daughter of a wealthy textile merchant who had made his fortune in trade with the French colonies, and she had come to the reception with her father, who was considering investing a substantial amount in the tower. She wore a deep green dress that matched her eyes perfectly, and her dark hair was elaborately pinned in the fashion of the time. And when she laughed at something her father said, the entire room, filled with important men in expensive suits, seemed to brighten. "You're the American engineer everyone's talking about," she said, approaching me with a frankness and confidence unusual for Parisian society women of the era. Her voice had a tone of amusement, the one who mysteriously appeared from nowhere and impressed Monsieur Eiffel so deeply that he keeps you at his side constantly. "Nikola Brown," I said, taking her offered hand. In my time, we would shake hands equally. In hers, I was supposed to kiss her fingers delicately. I compromised with a respectful but gentle touch. "And you are?" "Amélie Rousseau, daughter of a man with much money but little real imagination." She smiled conspiratorially, lowering her voice. "He thinks the tower is a foolish investment that will never pay returns. I think it's the most exciting thing happening in Paris right now. Tell me honestly, will it really be a full 300 meters tall?" "Every meter," I promised, allowing myself to smile. "You'll be able to see it from practically everywhere in the city when it's complete." "Good," she said with evident satisfaction. "Paris desperately needs something to wake it from this sleep. We've been sleeping too long, dreaming nostalgically of our past glories. It's time to finally build something truly new for the future." We talked for over an hour that night, pulled away in a corner of the elegant reception while other guests circulated. She was remarkably insightful, intensely curious, impressively well-read for someone of her era and class. She had studied mathematics privately with a tutor, something extraordinarily unusual for women of her social position, and had strong, well-articulated opinions about architecture, politics, art, literature. She asked me extensively about America, and I told carefully edited stories about New York and Chicago, descriptions that were true but omitted any detail that would be impossible in 1887. She told me about growing up in Paris, about the suffocating weight of tradition and expectation, about wanting something genuinely more than a respectable arranged marriage and a quiet life managing a household. "I want to truly matter," she said, as the reception finally ended, her voice low but intense. "Is that absurdly foolish? For a woman to want that in this world?" "It's the opposite of foolish," I told her with complete sincerity. "It's deeply human." She looked at me with those striking green eyes, and I saw something there. Recognition, perhaps, or possibility, or something even more dangerous. "Will you be at the construction site tomorrow, Monsieur Brown?" "Every day," I said. "Then perhaps I'll visit with Papa. He should see exactly where his potential investment is going after all." She visited, and kept visiting, and slowly, inevitably, something began to grow between us. A connection that completely transcended my carefully established mission protocols and her restrictive social expectations. But it was Eiffel who really occupied my thoughts during those weeks of winter turning into early spring. We worked side by side practically every day, and our friendship deepened organically with each complex engineering challenge we faced together. He had an absolutely brilliant mind and a genuinely generous heart, and I found myself respecting him not just as a historical genius whose achievements I had studied academically, but as a real man dealing with real doubts and real fears. "You know," he told me one evening as we drank wine in his cluttered office, "I haven't had a real close friend since Marguerite died. My colleagues respect me professionally, but keep careful distance. You're different, Nikola. You challenge me intellectually. You make me think differently about problems I thought I'd already solved." "The feeling is genuinely mutual," I said, and it was a deeper truth than he could imagine. Eiffel made me question my own comfortable certainties, made me see history not as a series of predetermined events to be merely preserved, but as the result of real, difficult choices made by real people with genuine doubts and fears and hopes. Work on the tower progressed steadily through March and April. The 4 massive foundation pillars rose impressively from the Parisian ground, incredibly complex iron structures that would eventually support the entire structure. Eiffel was a visibly transformed man, energized by the progressive work, confident again despite the continuing and relentless criticism from Paris's cultural elite. Newspaper articles attacked the project almost daily. Cartoonists drew cruel caricatures, But Eiffel kept building. I was on site almost every day, offering technical advice, helping with complex calculations, watching history be literally built around me piece by piece. And every few days, Amélie would visit, and we would steal precious moments together. A walk around the construction site perimeter, a private conversation in the construction office, a shared look that lasted only a second but said everything. "She's quite interested in you," Eiffel observed one evening after Amélie had left with her father. We were alone in the site office, reviewing next month's detailed work schedule. "And you in her, I strongly suspect." "It's extremely complicated," I said vaguely. "True love always is." He smiled sadly, and I saw the pain of his old loss cross his face. When Marguerite was alive, every day was simultaneously complicated and absolutely glorious. After she was gone, well, the work became simpler and clearer, but life became fundamentally empty. Don't waste the chance at real human connection, Nikola. Those chances are extraordinarily rare. But Amélie was a complication I knew deeply I couldn't sustain long-term. My mission would have to end eventually. I would have to leave, disappear back to my own time. And explaining that to her without revealing my true purpose and origin would be absolutely impossible. It was Eiffel who finally forced the issue on a clear day in May. "There's something genuinely strange about you, my friend," he said one morning at the construction site. We were alone, meticulously checking measurements on one of the foundation pillars, far enough from the other workers to have privacy. "You speak about future engineering as if you've already seen it with your own eyes. Your insights are too precise, too advanced for someone of your stated age and experience. And that watch you wear on your left wrist? I've never seen anything remotely like it anywhere. Not in the most advanced Swiss watchmaker catalogs." My blood froze completely in my veins. Instinctively, my right hand covered my left wrist, where the chrono device was hidden beneath my coat sleeve. "It's just a special chronometer," I said, my voice not as steady as I hoped. "Experimental American design. Not widely available yet. Don't lie to me, Nikola." His voice was serious but not angry. It was worse than anger, it was disappointment. "We're true friends. We've worked side by side for entire months. You completely deserve my trust, but I deserve your truth in return. Who are you really? Where do you truly come from?" I looked at him for a long moment. This man who had become so much more than a simple object of historical study, so much more than a temporal mission. He had become a true friend in the deepest sense of the word, and genuine friends deserved honesty no matter the cost. "I need you to sit down," I said quietly. "What I'm about to tell you will sound absolutely insane." He sat carefully on a stack of iron beams, never taking his penetrating eyes off me, waiting patiently. "I'm not exactly from the America you know," I began, each word feeling like jumping off a cliff. "I'm from the future, from a time very, very far ahead of this one. I came back specifically to ensure that the tower is built correctly because it's important, more important to humanity's future than you can possibly imagine." Silence. Heavy, dangerous silence that stretched for seconds that felt like hours. Then, calmly, "Prove it." I took a deep breath and pulled back my coat sleeve, revealing the chrono device. With slightly trembling fingers, I activated the holographic display. Brilliant blue lights materialized in the air between us, showing the complex interface, the precise temporal coordinates, the incredibly advanced quantum calculations running in real time. His eyes gradually widened, his face visibly paled, and I saw his hands grip the beam below him. "Mon Dieu," he whispered reverently. "It's real. You're really from the future. Time travel is really possible." "About 235 years from now," I confirmed, deactivating the display. "Time travel exists. It's rigorously controlled, carefully monitored. And sometimes, when necessary, we need to go back to ensure that crucially important events happen exactly the way they should happen." He leaned back against the stack of metal, processing this impossible information. Then, very slowly, his expression changed from pure shock to an almost childlike wonder. "What's it like? The future? Tell me everything, please." And that's how I spent the next 3 hours. Sitting with Gustave Eiffel on a construction site in the year 1887, describing in vivid detail the extraordinary world of the 22nd century. I told him about computers that fit in the palm of your hand but were millions of times more powerful than any calculating machine of his era. About a global information network called the Internet that connected all humanity instantly. I told him about space travel, about men walking on the moon, about robotic probes exploring the far reaches of the solar system. I told him about medicine that could cure diseases that were death sentences in his time, about renewable energy, about climate change and the challenges humanity faced. I told him that his tower would still be standing, strong and beautiful, would become the most iconic and beloved structure in Paris, would inspire countless other buildings around the world. And flight? He asked eagerly, leaning forward. Do men finally learn to fly like birds? Yes, I said, feeling a wave of emotion as I recalled. In fact, I just came directly from 1906, where I watched an extraordinary Brazilian man named Alberto Santos Dumont fly the first true airplane. Not the primitive glider of the Wright brothers that American history books would initially credit. That one needed a catapult and favorable winds just to leave the ground. Santos Dumont's 14 bis took off under its own power, flew 60 meters through the autumn air. It was absolutely magnificent. Eiffel's eyes gleamed with pure excitement. I would love to see that. To see anything from the future you describe, the world you describe. It's everything I dreamed and more. It has its serious problems too, I said honestly. Terrible wars, environmental challenges, persistent inequality. But yes, humanity achieves truly remarkable things. And you, Gustave, you're a fundamental part of that. Your tower helps inspire generations of engineers and architects. He stood up, walked slowly around the construction site, looking at the massive foundations already in place, processing everything I had revealed. Then he turned to me with an expression that mixed deep admiration and growing sadness. Does Amélie know the truth? No, I said firmly. She can't know. I shouldn't even have told you. There are strict rules. Rules, he interrupted, his voice gaining an edge. You come from a time where men can travel through history itself, and you're worried about bureaucratic rules? He sighed deeply. But I understand perfectly. Temporal paradoxes, unintended consequences, the terrible weight of responsibility. He placed his hand gently on my shoulder. You're completely in love with her, aren't you? It wasn't a question. Yes, I admitted quietly. But it doesn't matter. I can't stay here. I have to leave eventually, return to my own time. When? Soon. My original mission was simply to ensure you didn't lose faith in the tower during critical moments of doubt. You haven't lost that faith. The work is progressing absolutely perfectly, better even than the historical record suggested. I should have left weeks ago, but you stayed because of her, and because of me. Yes, because of both of you. Eiffel walked slowly to the edge of the construction site, looking contemplatively at the iron skeleton of the tower rising against the bright blue Parisian sky. True friendship is an extraordinarily rare gift, Nikola, especially for men like us, who live much more in our analytical heads than in our hearts. You've given me something precious I haven't had in years. True companionship, genuine mutual respect, the pleasure of working with someone who truly understands. I'll be eternally grateful for that, no matter what time you came from. The gratitude is all mine, I said honestly. You've shown me something crucial that no temporal council training could teach, that history isn't just abstract events and dates in books. It's real people making incredibly courageous decisions despite deep fear and constant doubt. Then here's my own courageous decision, Eiffel said, turning to face me directly. When you finally leave, I won't ask when or how. I won't make this emotionally harder than it already is. But promise me one single thing. Anything. Always remember that a man in 1887 called you a true friend. That we built something significant together. Not just this tower of iron, but a real human connection that transcends time itself. And if your extraordinary work brings you back to Paris someday, in any era, come see me. Even if I'm old and frail, even if I barely remember complex calculations, I would deeply like to see my friend from the future again. I promise, I said, feeling the absolute weight of that promise. I stayed in Paris for the next precious weeks, knowing with growing certainty that my time was rapidly running out. Work on the tower progressed beautifully, better than any expectation. The iron structure rose higher with each passing day, and I could see Eiffel's extraordinary vision materializing exactly as he had dreamed so long ago. Amélie and I stole intimate moments when we could, always carefully. We walked along the banks of the Seine at dusk, talked in small cafes where no one knew us, shared loaded glances that said everything we couldn't speak aloud. She knew instinctively that something was deeply wrong, that I was keeping significant secrets, but she was kind and wise enough not to press for explanations I couldn't give. "You're leaving very soon," she said one sunny afternoon as we stood at the construction site, watching skilled workers carefully bolt iron sections together. "I can see it clearly in your eyes. You're silently saying goodbye to Paris, to everything here." "My work here is essentially complete," I said with extreme care, "and there's important work waiting elsewhere." She turned to face me completely, and I saw deep understanding in her striking green eyes. "I won't ask what you're hiding from me, Nikola. I won't demand impossible explanations you clearly can't give. But know this, meeting you changed something fundamental in me. You showed me it's truly possible to see the world completely differently, to dream much bigger than expected, to genuinely want more than the conventional. Wherever your mysterious path takes you, I'm eternally grateful it crossed mine, even if briefly." "Amélie," she placed her finger gently on my lips, silencing me. "No, don't make this emotionally harder with empty promises you can't keep or impossible explanations you can't give. Let's simply have this perfect moment, this real connection, and let it be enough for a lifetime of memories." She kissed me then, sweet and brief and loaded with everything we couldn't say, and then gracefully walked away to join her father on the other side of the busy construction site. I watched her go, desperately memorizing every detail. The precise way golden sunlight caught her dark hair, the natural grace of her movements, the musical sound of her laughter when her father said something funny. That evening, Eiffel and I sat together in his cluttered office for the last time, drinking red wine and talking about absolutely everything and nothing. He didn't mention my imminent departure directly, and I was deeply grateful for that kindness. "The tower will be completely finished in approximately 2 years, he said thoughtfully. "I would genuinely like you to be here physically to see the completion." "I will be," I said with a sad smile. "Just not exactly in the way you expect." He understood completely. "Will you visit when it's finished? See the final result of our work?" "Yes. I solemnly promise I'll see your magnificent tower completed." "Good." He raised his wine glass high. "To dreams realized against all odds, to true friendship that transcends time itself, and to men courageous enough to build the absolutely impossible." We clinked glasses hard, and I drank deeply, trying to savor every second of the moment. The next morning, very early, before the construction site came alive with workers, I went one last time to the location. The iron structure rose dramatically against the pink dawn sky, already absolutely impressive even though deeply incomplete. I stood there in silence for a long moment, vividly imagining how it would look when it was ready. 300 meters of pure elegance, literally touching the clouds. "Goodbye, my true friend," I whispered to the cold wind, not knowing if I was speaking to Eiffel, to Amélie, or to eternal Paris itself. Then I activated my chrono device with slightly trembling hands. The complex quantum processors hummed to life. The temporal field began to gradually form around me, reality distorting at the edges of my vision. I carefully set the coordinates for my next destination, not directly back to the 22nd century yet, but to another urgent mission the Temporal Council had assigned. Japan, 1274. The historic Mongol invasions, another absolutely crucial point in history, where gentle observation could ensure events unfolded correctly according to the records. As the temporal field completely solidified around me, I had one last crystalline glimpse of Paris, eternal city of light and deep shadow, of unchanging tradition and audacious innovation, of impossible love and inevitable loss. Then the world completely fragmented into pure light and quantum energy, and I was traveling again through the currents of time. The jump was surprisingly smooth this time, without the complications of the previous jump. I materialized in a dense forest beside a rocky beach in what would eventually be Fukuoka province in modern Japan. The air was loaded with sea salt and cold, and I could hear waves rhythmically beating against the nearby coast. It was autumn of 1274, just a few days before Kublai Khan's massive Mongol fleet would arrive at the Japanese islands. My mission was technically simple: discreetly observe the Japanese defense forces, ensure the kamikaze, the legendary divine wind, happened exactly as history clearly recorded, and keep events firmly on the correct historical course. But as I carefully walked through the forest toward the nearest samurai encampment, my mind stubbornly remained in Paris. I could still perfectly hear Eiffel's warm laughter, could still feel Amélie's delicate hand in mine, could still see the tower rising majestically against the Parisian sky. I checked my chrono device methodically. It was functioning absolutely perfectly now, all systems completely normal. I could technically jump to any historical period I wanted. I could, if I really chose, return to Paris in 1889 and see the magnificently completed tower, see Eiffel in his final moment of absolute triumph against all critics. But that wasn't my designated role. That wasn't how time travel worked within protocols. We touched lives briefly and then inevitably moved on. We ensured history happened correctly and then discreetly disappeared into the shadows of time. It was deeply lonely sometimes, this extraordinary work, creating real human connections that could never truly last, meeting absolutely extraordinary people and then leaving. But it was also crucially important. We protected the timeline, carefully preserved the crucial moments that defined humanity's trajectory. And sometimes, rarely, but sometimes, we were unexpectedly blessed with genuine friendship, with people like Gustave Eiffel who saw us clearly and accepted us completely anyway, with people like Amélie who touched our hearts deeply even while instinctively knowing we were fundamentally impossible to keep. Those precious connections didn't last forever, but they mattered tremendously. I reached the edge of the forest and carefully looked out at the bay where the massive Mongol fleet would soon appear on the horizon. I had important work to do, crucial history to protect, events to ensure unfolded correctly. But as I prepared my careful approach to the samurai encampment, I allowed myself one final moment of pure memory. Paris, in emerging spring, the rhythmic sound of hammers shaping incandescent iron, Amélie's musical laughter, Eiffel's firm, warm hand on my shoulder, the tower rising against the sky like a prayer made of pure metal. "Thank you, my true friend," I whispered sincerely to the Japanese wind, for reminding me exactly why we do this. I'm Nikola Brown, Chrononaut. I travel through time protecting the moments that define our history. And if you enjoyed this adventure, the friendships that transcend eras and the towers we build together, both of iron and of trust, subscribe to the channel for more journeys through time and human history. Next stop, feudal Japan, 1274, where samurai will face the greatest empire the world has ever seen, and where divine winds will decide the fate of a nation. Until then, remember, we build the future not just with metal and stone, but with the connections we make and the courage we inspire in others.